Judaica for Central Synagogue, and the process of brainstorming and creating these ritual objects has been such a delight. It is one of the very best things I get to do, and so I'm really excited to share his work with you. So welcome, Ellie.
Thank you. I wish I was joining in person in New York City, actually, but I'm glad that at least we can do this.
Yes. So I I guess start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself, the kind of work you do. Let us know what's up.
Sure. So I come from a theater background. I'm a theater boy. I always would do theater my whole life since I was a child. And Judaism was always very important to me, and I found it inspiring and interesting and fascinating, but I never really connected it to any of the artistic things that I did. And then one day someone was talking to me, and it sort of came up that I should create a Haggadah. And this person said that to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, you're right. And I had to I couldn't get it out of my mind basically. And that very night, I sat down at the computer and I had the vision for how the Haggadah should be, the structure. I really think about structure a lot, which I'll talk about later. And so I created the structure for this, my version of what a Passover Haggadah would be. And and I just kind of worked on it in the evenings. Uh, and what I realized is the Passover Seder is a storytelling moment, and the Haggadah that I was creating is essentially a piece of theatrical design. So if if theater is something that can only happen when you're in the room, I know now we're actually watching a lot of um, stream theater, and there are filmed versions of theater performances, but anyone who's been to both kind of knows that there's something different when you're in the room and when it's in front of you. There's something really special about theater. And so for me, this idea of religious items and religious books that I've created is actually about a theatrical experience. In this case, it's a one-on-one theatrical experience. It's like me and the book, but it's something that can only happen live and in person. And that's kind of one of the things I think that that I've always dealt with in collaborating with you, which has worked out for the best, but it's things that are very hard to explain. And um, we sort of come up against that, and I'll FedEx samples and we'll figure it out. But and I think you guys have trouble with this also, explaining it onwards to the people on your end. It's like, you're making a what? What is it? Cards? Like what is this thing? So I think it's weird, but it's also great because it means that it's something that's completely unique, and it has to be experienced in a tactile way in person. And that's what's really exciting to me, because that's what I think um, ritual is about. Ritual is something that's about being tactile and touching and experiencing something that's only in that moment.
Mm.
So so that's where the idea of the Haggadah came from. It's and so unbound is a word that now I use to describe everything I do, but for specifically for the Haggadah, it makes a lot of sense. The idea of becoming free from slavery, of unbound. And the idea is that it's a series of cards. So the Passover Haggadah can be, you can sit with it and look at each card, and each card has a kind of visual, tactile concept relating to that moment in the Passover Seder. You can also untie them, venture into what you could call kind of Judaica, though that seems like such like a word that doesn't describe what I do, but it is a form of Jewish books. And then I actually showed this to Rabbi Buchdal, her hoping copy or something. And instead, we embarked on this journey that has led to many, many projects that were really amazing.
Right. So it may be my internet or it may be yours, but there was a little glitchiness there. So I'll just share for folks who may have been hearing the way I did. What's amazing about the Haggadah that Eli created is that the cards come apart and you pass them around the table, and then everyone has their card. And instead of everyone flipping through a book and seeing exactly the same thing, you actually have to really pay attention to the person who's doing the next part, and really taking part in this ritual, in this retelling. And so we saw, well, Rabbi Buchtal saw these cards and said, we have to do something with him. And we were planning our first big Shabbat, where we invited people to have each other over for Shabbat at each other's homes. And so we decided, and sometimes folks are a little nervous about, well, I don't know if I can host because I don't know all the blessings, or what's it going to be like. And so we decided to create a set of Shabbat blessing cards, very much modeled on the Haggadah, and it was really, that I think if we could talk a little bit about the creative process that we went through. I mean, that was a big group process. What was that like from your end?
First of all, I love Shabbat. And I think that one of the important, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of skipping, but I think it's just the fact that we are
Okay.
thousands of miles
If it
away
gets
from each other.
bad, like,
You're just freezing a little bit.
right.
Yeah.
If it gets bad, raise your hands or something and I move. Okay. I'll talk slowly. Um, so I love Shabbat, and I think that having passion for the ritual that we're talking about is the most important, element to creation. And it's the sort of the base of the creative process. For me, like I was saying before, it's really about structure. I'm a person who works very much from the outside in. And again, going back to theater, I'm a theater director, and in theater, as a director, there's two ways to instruct an actor. You can sort of tell the actor where to stand and what to wear and what to do physically, and then the actors in the rest. So you're kind of giving them the structure and hoping and assuming some the emotional element will fill in. And then there's director out, where
Ellie, you're
we
skipping a
have the
little. I
feeling and
wonder
we
if
work a
there's a
lot on the feeling.
I wonder if there's a place that you have better reception.
Yeah, let's try.
We get to go on a tour of your house. This is very exciting. This is how you know it's happening
Here we go.
live.
Okay. Yes, like live theater.
Yes. Okay.
Let me just put this on something. Okay, hopefully this will be better. Let me see. Okay.
Sorry to invade your home in this way.
Well, look at this. You get to see another whole wall.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, so you were talking a little bit about working from the outside in.
Right. So for me in theater, I feel like that's how I work with actors. And on directing a show, I will kind of think about the structure and the larger ideas in a play and the physical surroundings of the actors. And then I will kind of tell them what to do. And then it's up to them, in discussion with me, to fill in the emotional elements. And I think that also connects to Judaism. We can work in different ways in Judaism. And one of the ways is to just do the stuff and kind of hope or assume that something emotional is gonna fill in the place that we create. Like we're creating a space. and something emotional shows up. And so then this is the same way that I will work on an artistic project and a design project, is in terms of kind of outwards, inwards, looking at the structure first. And I think a number is always really important. For whatever reason, for the Passover Haggadah, I chose 12, which is not really a number that's connected to the Seder itself, but it just kind of made sense to me. And for Shabbat, there's an obvious choice. I can like make this a bit interactive. What number would we choose for Shabbat? You can kind of put it into the
No
chat.
peeking in your Shabbat cards to find out the answer.
Right. You really only have one guess for the Shabbat number.
Right.
So Shabbat, we chose the number 7, and we divided Shabbat into 7 parts or sections or ideas. And it's not necessarily divided over time, like 7 moments in Shabbat. It's 7 general concepts that have to do with Shabbat. And then we created this beautiful book that's a set of cards, also 7 cards contained inside a bag. And it's like a bag of Shabbat, a little bag of holiness. And the way we worked on it was really, we just started with the 7 ideas. I think we had kind of a Google Doc, and the rabbis and clergy at Central are all really amazing, and each drawing from a different types of sources. And so everyone kind of filled in their stuff. And I looked at it and, took what seemed right and what seemed like it would work visually. And we took some stuff out and moved some stuff around. And in the end, we came up with these 7 cards that sort of, on the front, they all have a clear ritual element that's connected to the familiar rituals of Shabbat. And then on the back, they have different tactile activities that that both involve the book itself physically, and also activities that are things that you are invited to do at home. The first one being, for example, to take your cell phones and put them into the bag and then shut the bag like this, like in the
Right.
Netflix documentary about social media.
Right.
Put them in that box and forget about them. We were ahead of our time, you see.
Definitely.
And
Would you
so,
show us the cards maybe for Kiddush
Kiddush, yeah.
and the also the discussion card, I think, is also
Yeah.
another.
So this one has on the front a fairly traditional version of Kiddush, the blessing on the wine. And I feel like it's a great example because that's something that we just do so automatically, and we don't really think about what it is, what is our action, right? What are we doing when we're saying this blessing? And one of the things we're doing is we're raising up the glass. We're turning the wine into something holy. Kiddush means to set something apart, right? You may drink wine every day, or, I drink wine every day. Whoever drinks wine, however much they drink it, that's great. But on Shabbat, it's special. It's not just wine. It's wine that you're doing the act of setting it apart. You're raising it up. And so I wanted to find something that would really bring to life the idea of how raising something up makes it holy. And so we have this kind of a stained glass window on the back of the card, and here it has the quote, my cup runneth over, or overflows. And it's actually a little bit of there's a pull tab here, and when you pull it, and again, this is something that's much better experienced in real life, but when you remove the card from the frame, it actually turns colorful. So it's a little bit of paper magic that is just the magic of Shabbat helping us to take a kind of regular cup of wine, and by raising it, we're able to make it into this beautiful, colorful rendition that is similar to the it's the design is a little bit derived, the geometry of it, from the stained glass windows that are along the side of the sanctuary. So obviously a connection to the central sanctuary is another really good source of inspiration.
Yeah, as I recall, that the idea of elevation, I think it was Rabbi Ari Lorge came up with this idea of, we're raising the glass, and the whole idea of Shabbat is to elevate this experience. And then part of the fun of getting to work with you, Ellie, is we come up with, all of these. We have these texts and these ideas, and wouldn't it be cool if, I think at one point we were thinking about doing something like glow in the dark for Havdalah. And then Ellie always comes back and shows us, these prototypes, which draw on these ideas, but are really out of his imagination. And then we have a lot of back and forth to refine them, which is a ton of fun. So the next project we worked on was the Ark for the High Holidays, which was, again, there were, I love how you talk about structure, and we've talked a lot about how, you sort of set the structure and then are creative within it. We knew we wanted something to be freestanding, right? That could stand up, which obviously set limits to what was available. But then within that, we had a lot of room to play.
Yeah. For the Ark, which I have here, the Ark was really important to me that it be tactile. All these things are obviously very tactile, but with the Ark, we were already in a new world, right? We knew that we had this thing happening, this plague, and that everyone's lives was different. And the goal of the Ark was to bring holiness and a kind of piece of central synagogue into people's homes. And it was less about the words and the text, and even actually less about a specific ritual, because the Ark was just an item, like it is in the actual synagogue, where it's just kind of there, and it's what gives this important sense of holiness to our space. And so with this Ark, we did stuff that's really tactile, and really the main investment in terms of the design was in finding the materials, and it's really made of all these different materials, which was a lot of work, but it's great. It really makes it a special item. We have a window. I don't even have my phone here, but everyone remembers how kind of the Ark itself lights up when you put your phone into it with the flashlight shining up. And we have one window here that's made out of a sort of a different kind of paper, a translucent paper, like almost like tracing paper. And then here there's our mirror, which is made of rose gold mirror. I was really insistent on finding the rose gold. I find that a silver mirror I thought would just be very cold. A silver mirror when it's empty kind of looks cold, and here it looks so warm and happy. And so actually a fun tidbit about these is that when we did a sort of an initial run, and then we were going to do more, and my supplier called me and said, we're going to have to find another solution for the mirror. It might have to be silver because you've actually used up the entire stock of rose gold mirror in America. And I was very proud to be able to say that I had taken all the rose gold mirror for us. But in the end, they found some more. It's from a UK supplier. They brought some over. It was all good. But I think it's just to show how tactile and how specific this kind of work was. Here we have a really amazing, intricate cutout of the stars from the central synagogue ceiling. And again, this is it's really difficult work, this type of cutting out, but that's what, in this case, that's really what made the piece so special.
Mm,
Um, and then we have the doors themselves that open.
right. And there was an activity, right? We had the book of life that we could write
Yeah,
in and then slide in, which we did during our services,
yeah,
which then allowed the clergy to create moments in the actual services. We're like, okay, we have this book. What are the moments during the service that we really want people to do some personal reflection? And again, knowing that we had a book that we wanted people to fill out, it allowed us to create ritual moments
right.
specific to that design.
Which goes back to something you were saying, Rabbi Auerbach, before about how we're creating things that are new, that don't, no one, like, we're not creating, this isn't a siddur, a prayer book. This isn't a, there's no word for this. And it's something new. And that's especially true and needed now when everything is sort of changing.
Right.
And we really need to be rethinking how ritual works. And it's great to see everyone here on chat. I see Len, hi Len, and Jody and Laura. It's nice to see everyone. And
Great.
Edward.
Well, I know that our Hanukkah wheels have started to arrive in people's homes, and that a lot of what people are here to hear more about is sort of the ideas and designs behind this latest project. So I'll tell you from the Central Synagogue end of things. Well, firstly, I want to offer deep gratitude to Nikki and Harold Tanner, who made this project possible. Thanks to their generosity, we are able to, send these as a gift to everyone. Um, so there were a couple of ideas, several ideas that we threw at you at the very last minute. We said, people are still home. We really want them to have something physical that will connect them to us. We said ideas from Hanukkah that we love are um, publicizing the miracle. There's a commandment that we're supposed to put our menorahs in the window so that we publicize the miracle. So we had an idea that it should go in a window and somehow that it should be visible from outside. Um, and then we wanted it to make sure that whatever it was, it increased in light and joy, because that's why we add a candle every night instead of subtracting a candle every night, because we want to increase in joy. And then the final idea was, we are really hunting for joy right now, particularly when it's getting darker. And in the US, our dreidels have the initials that go with the saying, a great miracle happened there, meaning in Israel with the Maccabees, right? Nes gadol haya sham. But in Israel, because the miracle happened there, it says, a great miracle happened here. And so we said, wouldn't it be fun if we could use the Israeli letters on this to highlight the fact that there are miracles that are happening all the time, wherever we are, even if we're here, even small ones, and also that we all have the opportunity to actually be agents of miracle making in the world and to send more and more light and blessing into the world. So we basically threw all of that at Eli, and he came back with something beautiful. So would you like to share?
Sure. First of all, there's going to be, it's like a spoiler alert, I feel. So if you want to just get your piece and be surprised, then I don't know, come back in 5 minutes. But I just in terms of the process, I find inspiration in design through the limitations, or you could call them limitations, or the guidelines, kind of, or the parameters of a design. For me, that's the difference between being an artist, which I put in quotes only because I don't know, it's very amorphous and everyone is an artist. But the idea of creating kind of for the plastic arts, and the difference between that and design to me is that when you're a designer, you're working within parameters. And I identify as a designer more than an artist because I feel that I am inspired by the parameters, and I always need those guidelines in order to have something with which to create. And for me, creating in a big empty space is harder and maybe less interesting than creating in a space where you need to kind of fulfill certain guidelines. So for
Can I just
this,
share? I mean, as Jewish clergy, I actually see a lot of connection to how we think about building services as a reform rabbi, right? I've taken classes in interfaith settings where, it's like create a ritual, whatever kind of ritual you want. And I actually think there's a lot of meaning in saying, okay, we have a structure of liturgy. And within that, there's tons of room to create and innovate. But it also ties us back to something that is, older than ourselves. So I do that kind of play too, just in prayer, I think.
yeah, yeah, and it's more inspiring
Hmm.
because you're connected to something that's something else, and it's not just your creation for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so I knew we talked about light, and we talked about light and kind of the pirsume nisa, the uh, like marketing? No,
Publicizing, I would say.
publicizing. Okay, publicizing of the miracle. So I wanted to go big, but we knew that we were mailing this in the mail, and there's a limit to how big a mail piece can be in the U.S. Postal Service before it, becomes extremely expensive. So there was limit number one, right? We had to be the envelope had to be under 12 inches square. So, but I was like 12 inches. If that's in my window, 12 inches, it doesn't feel that big compared to, Manhattan. So at least what I did, I took a 12-inch square, and the first thing I did was I put it on its side. And by turning it into a diamond shape, we already have made it bigger than it was when it was just a square. And also, I knew that we had to have, if on Shabbat we use the number 7, obviously now we were going to use the number 8. And 8 is going to be our kind of the basis with which I work. Um, One side faces inwards, and that's about kind of ourselves and the stuff that we're doing in the world. And then the other side faces outwards. And I put in the largest type I could fit, I put Nes Gadol, just the words, a great miracle. And it's in as bright colors as we could find, contrasting. And hopefully people will be able to see this from outdoors. And I don't know what they're going to think. They may understand it, they may not understand it, but we have beautiful Hebrew words facing the street saying something about our pride in our heritage and our accomplishments over the past year as a community, which has been obviously a very difficult year, but we are saying there was a miracle. And I think that's really special. So that's what we see on one side. And then on the other side, we started with basically the idea of light, and so the reason it turns in this direction is because that's sort of parallel to the direction that the menorah is supposed to be lit, the Chanukah. And each day you turn it and you reveal more and more light. It's kind of hard to see on the video, but basically by the end you have lots of different colors. Um, I'll say some of the things that we've already said that you can find on the website about this are that if you look closely here in the middle, for each of the days that you spin, 1, 2, 3, a number is created that is only created, it only kind of lines up when that day is reached. And then on the final day, big surprise, we end up with an actual Chanukiah that kind of magically appears here.
That was
Um,
my wow moment, by the way. I have to say, there was all this stuff going on in the middle. I was like, I don't know quite what's going on. Okay. And when I saw that somehow the geometry works out so that you end up with the branches of the Chanukah at the end. And also my kids thought that was the coolest part. And I think the magic numbers are fun too.
Yeah, the for me it was this was so yeah, Jody also wrote it was her wow moment. So what I agree, and my wow moment was when I was making this, and I had all my samples out, and we had a ridiculous deadline that was like we didn't have time to make it, and I was sitting with all my things, and I was like, okay, I'll turn it and make the numbers. That's cool, but I was like, I'm a theater person. I need a grand finale. Where's the grand finale? And I was like, this isn't enough. And then when I came up with the idea of the menorah, that the Chanukah kind of shows up, I was like, that's it. You've been rewarded for your kind of going through the days. You end up with this beautiful final picture, and it kind of brings everything together. That was really important to me. I'll say a few other kind of interesting things that are here that are not in any explanation. So basically, it's us who are going to know it, and obviously anyone on Facebook who watches this. So here we have 8 different ways that you can bring light to the world, and I think this is a good thing to discuss with your families or with whoever you're spending the holiday, and knowing that even if you're by yourself, other people from the community also have this, so you can have virtual discussions about these elements, because this item kind of connects everyone right now. There's different things here that relate to how each of us can bring light into the world, and I know that everyone can connect to one of these things. If you notice, there's a judge's gavel, and behind each of these elements, and you kind of have to look on your own version for this, but behind each of these elements, there's kind of like a starburst of light in the design. And behind the judge's gavel, the starburst of light is actually designed to look like the collar of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So you can see that if you look closely, that she's with us as we bring light into the world, because we know certainly that she is someone who worked very hard to bring a lot of light into the world. And then another interesting thing, here in the middle, we have a bunch of stars on one side, and on the other side, we have a bunch of sheaves of wheat. And in the middle, there's a big star and a big sheaf of wheat. Let's see, now I'm really going to do it. I'm not going to say it until someone puts some guesses into the chat. So there's what could this be speaking about? If you like rack your brain about Jewish stories, the Bible, and probably musical theater, depending on how much musical theater you know.
We have Susan Wagner first up with Joseph's Dreams.
There we go. Okay, so that was easy. All right. So basically, right here we have a star and a sheaf of wheat, and surrounded by littler stars and littler sheaves of wheat. So this is symbols from Joseph's dream, and the reason for this is that in the schedule of weekly Torah portions on Chanukah, we are reading the story of Joseph and his dreams and his brothers and Pharaoh, and a lot has been written about the connection, or maybe the lack of connection, and how we just try to find the connection. But as Jews, we always find the connection between stuff. So there are connections between the ideas of Chanukah and the ideas of Joseph's story. So that's here for us as well. Here at the top, we have one final candle, right? Because we actually don't have 8 candles, we have 9. So this is the 9th candle, the shamash. And then another little cool thing, this is just finished, and then I think we can be open to any questions if anyone has. When you look from the back, and I'm a theater person, I'm all about spoilers. I don't want people to know things. I want things to be a surprise. So when you look from the back, you see lots and lots of colors and lots of light. But then when you turn it and you open up your first little candle lighting night, you actually see, and this is a little bit hard to see from the computer, but you see that there's only one light right? And that when you had looked behind, there was all these colors. And then when you turn it this way, the colors are actually only there at the end. Let's put something white behind, right? So here now we can see, okay. So we can see that at the beginning, when we turn the first day, we see only yellow, one little yellow light, right? And each day there's an additional light. Now there's 2, now there's 3 with one single additional color, 4, 5, 6, and it really does grow every day until we're only on the final day do we have a big assortment of 8 colorful colors. But just to make sure that that effect is a surprise, when you look at it from behind, it's all colorful. And also this is so that when you look at it from the street, it's as colorful as possible, even though when we look at it from inside, we really just see that kind of progression. So that's one of, again, a little secret that I don't think anybody will notice, but I put it in because I love this kind of stuff.
Well, one of the things I've really learned from you, Eli, even going back to the Haggadah, is there are design elements in your Haggadah, in the Shabbat cards, which very few people may ever, actually sort of see and decode and understand. But the fact that they're there has an effect on their experience of the item, whether or not they are aware of the meaning that you ascribe to it. And it also adds a little bit of like fun and mystery, right? Like, I wonder what the sheaves of wheat are doing there. I think that's been great fun, to see.
And that's also that's very Jewish. Like that's how all of our traditions are full of these random things, and you don't know if this is there because 5 generations ago, someone's mother just didn't have a big enough pot, right? The story about the cutting off the tail of the fish, or I don't know what it is, where why do you do that? Well, it's just because the pot was never big enough. And then sometimes some things do have a meaning, and sometimes things don't have a real meaning, but we ascribe our own meaning to them. And that's what art is. And for me, that's what the visual language is. And when you think of a phrase like Shema Yisrael, which is a phrase that we say so often, it means something completely different to everyone who says it. And so I feel like in Judaism, a picture can mean 1,000 words, but in Judaism, a word can mean 1,000 words. And that's why this visual language to me makes so much sense to create ritual items in.
Great. I'm going to invite Catherine Adler has her hand up. So let me see if I'm going to ask you to unmute, Catherine, if I can. And if not, I'll ask you to just, there you go. Go ahead.
Okay. That hand went up inadvertently, but I would like to say this is absolutely fascinating, and it's so wonderful to be here with you. And I can't see the chat, but when Susan made her comment about the amazing colored coat, and it's just to be in this community is terrific, and I thank you.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. So anyone else have last minute questions or things you've always wondered about any of these items? You can throw them into the chat, things you have noticed. Let's see.
Can I do it again? Well, I can just explain.
The explanation again.
Yeah. So I don't know, Jody, I don't know, Edward, if you have a copy of this yet, but when you do get your copy, you'll see that there are a bunch of different icons here around the top that symbolize different ways in which we bring light into the world. And behind them, it's very light, and you wouldn't see it on the camera version. But behind them is just a kind of additional design element of a starburst in a different shape for each one. But the one that's behind, this is here we can see the judge's hammer. What's it called?
A gavel.
A gavel, yeah. So the judge's gavel, and behind it, the starburst is actually clearly in the shape of a collar, and that's obviously what we associate with Ruth Gator Ginsburg, and the light that she brought into the world. So it's with us also on Chanukah.
Nikki Tanner would love to know where we suggest we hang the piece and how to secure it.
Right. So it comes with a loop of string, and so in my mind, New York windows have the old-fashioned windows have that, I don't know, thingy on the...
Right, it's like the latch that you use to lock it. That's how I hung mine up, yeah.
Exactly. So everyone who is in an old-fashioned apartment who has those could hang it on those. It definitely should be in the window. That's sort of the main important thing. It can be hanging on some sort of item like that, or you can just literally tape across put a piece of Scotch tape across the loop straight onto the window. So I think the main thing is to find a way for it to be in the window. If you need to maybe find another piece of string to extend it so that you have a better, easier way to hang it, that's probably the way.
Great. Alyssa Ballot wants to know what the balloon means.
Okay. I mean, honestly, these are all ways, so I can just kind of show them to everyone so that you can clearly see. And I won't even say what they are, but there are 8 different ways that you could bring, there's the balloon, bring joy and light into the world. And I will not tell you what the balloon means, because I think this is really something that everyone has to think to themselves. Just like the gavel does not mean that you have to go and be a federal court judge or a lawyer to bring light into the world through justice. I think each of these things has a multitude of meanings, and it should be really personal, and that everyone should find something they can connect with. And balloons are great.
Right, they bring joy.
They do bring joy.
I've seen oftentimes in this time when we can't celebrate birthdays together with people, right? Going and leaving balloons outside their door as a surprise can be a wonderful thing and bring light into the world. So I put in the chat, Jules Spots wanted to know where he could find the Haggadah. So I put in the web address unboundjerusalem.com. Is there an English version, or is it all Hebrew?
No, the Haggadah has the full text in English and in Hebrew. It costs $100. I'm saying that only because right now I think there's something wrong with the website, and it displays a completely different, much higher price by accident. So just no pressure, and it's great. Whoever does want it can go, and I'll go and make sure to fix this right now. And if you click the button, then it'll be for the proper price. So don't be put off that it says there, I believe, like something like $250, which is not the price.
Which, if you think about the fact that you don't have to buy an individual Haggadah for everyone at your table, actually, well, I am really excited to see where we go together next, Ellie. It has been really a highlight of my work as a rabbi at the synagogue to get to dream up crazy things with you and actually have them come in an envelope to my house so I can interact with them. And just yesterday, I had hung mine in my window, and my kids, wanted to know how it worked. And when they saw the end, they're like, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." And I was like, "Yeah, I get to do that at work. How lucky am I?" So thank you,
Me
thank
too.
you. I know that it's evening where you are, and we're really grateful for you spending time in your evening with us and sharing light and blessings. So, on behalf of all your friends here at Central, we can't wait till we can travel and see you in Jerusalem, or you can come see us in New York. And also just wishing you light and love and safety and strength and resilience and courage and anything else you need as the days get darker. So
Great.
lots of love.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye, Eli.
Bye.